welcome to Fierce Fit Feminine and Other F Words, a place for women in business to learn more about health, beauty, body language, and communication. I'm Christine Brunelli, chiropractor and former beauty salon owner turned certified image consultant, helping you glow from the inside out. And today, we're getting past the glow, my girl. We are going full-blown radiance. Radiate your prosperity. Did you even think, what in the world does this mean? I can't wait to share my special guest with you. Natalie Clark is a renowned speaker, energy practitioner, and quantum facilitator with a gift for catalyzing soul-led, high-achieving women to crack open their untapped potential. Do I have your attention yet? She is so amazing. She has a bachelor and master's degree in business and higher education administration, along with other certifications and credentials to not only help you learn how to radiate your prosperity, but to abide in your prosperity and be a magnet for it. Are you ready? Let's dive in.
Natalie, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited for the topic that you are going to be sharing with this audience. These women want to know how to radiate their prosperity. Oh my goodness, before we get into this juicy topic, would you give us a snapshot of who you are and who you were before you started this work? What brought you to this?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. And I absolutely love this topic. I could talk for an entire day about this. There's so many things about radiating our prosperity. So first and foremost, when I was very young, I always had visions of being on stage and speaking and talking. And, those are just little kid things. And then when it came time to choose my college degree, I wanted to go into business because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It, to me, represented freedom and the ability to just travel, do things, see things. And so that's why I chose my first major, which was in business. And I lasted about 3 months tops in the corporate world. I remember walking in and I had a key card and I walked into this big building and it had lots of levels and I had an escalator and I had my little lunch bag. And I just remember feeling I have never felt so small in my life. And it was like I had to have this moment of this isn't for me. Here I am in corporate, and you're starting and you're just, laying the groundwork. And so I lasted 3 months, I think, at tops. And I ended up doing what so many amazing people do. They move back home with mom and dad to figure life out. And so I did that. And I kind of did some soul searching. I really realized I really wanted to help people on their paths to greatness. And that path took me into higher education, where I worked in admissions, I worked in marketing, I worked a little bit in PR, I worked in advising, I did some teaching, and really it was about their career path. And in that path, I still had this inkling and this pulling entrepreneurship. And I could tell because I advised for the business programs. And when I had a entrepreneur wannabe come in and sit in my office, I would get so lit up as they would share their journey. So it kept that fire alive. And so I realized, having 4 children, and I've always have been a side path in addition to my career, I've always studied the business world, living and thriving. So really living a life from a place of abundance, health, not sacrificing our health for our career, not sacrificing our health for entrepreneurship. And one of the things that tripped me up, when I was having my kids, was I don't have the time to start something, because the journey of entrepreneurship, when I looked at it, was filled with blood, sweat, and tears, right? And every person I talked to said, Natalie, you'd be amazing, but there's just blood, sweat, and tears, blood, sweat, and tears. And it was this resounding message. And I'm like, well, I don't want that, because to me, that's not prosperity. That just sounds awful. So from that path, I had my 4 children, and I came to a path of realizing, am I going to jump off the cliff and into the world of entrepreneurship? Or am I going to just wish I had every single day for the rest of my career? So I made the plunge, and as breadwinner in my family, I walked away from a beautiful career that was paying bills and, doing all the things and the pension, walked away from all of it. And I said, I am in it to win it. My back was against the wall. And I always knew that when our back is against the wall, that's when we make the magic happen. And a big part of this for me, this jump and this plunge, was about igniting my own inner brilliance. And so that has led to me constantly stepping into the greatest version of myself and help guiding women, many of which are in leadership or business or entrepreneurial or have energy fields that are very vast and they want to step into the greatness of who they are. And to me, this topic is so important for all women in business, but anybody who wants to live a thriving, healthy, and abundant life. We need to talk about prosperity. So that is our talk today.
I'm so excited. That's a great snapshot. And when you started working with clients in your entrepreneurial journey, I'm just curious in that path, how old were you?
Yeah, I think 40 was the magic number. I had 4 kids. I think I had one still in diapers, but barely. And I took the plunge at probably the worst time. But the truth is, there's never going to be a great time, right? And I didn't have the knowledge and the wisdom that I had, in my 20s and 30s that I did. It just came that pivotal moment, at 2020 was a pivotal year for everyone. Everything shut down and I'm like, game on. Let's go.
Love it. Okay. So radiate my prosperity. I want you to tell me what you mean by that.
Yes. So prosperity, I want to talk about prosperity first because prosperity can mean different things. But essentially, the way I define prosperity is very much of a holistic way, meaning it represents abundance, yes, in terms of financial freedom. It also represents health, vibrant, thriving health. It represents time expansion, the ability to say that I have all the time in the world to take care of myself, to take care of the things that are on my, to-do lists, and I'm flowing through life. Prosperity is having that abundance of time, an abundance of energy, an abundance of resources, having relationships. And again, this is not going for perfection, but it's a state of being. It is a state of existence. And people that are tapping into true prosperity, they're tapping into a higher frequency and their electromagnetic fields are moving more quickly. And what I mean by that is, when we get caught up in, let's say, the blood, sweat, and tears, which to me is an outdated business model. It's what I learned in business school, right? It was all of those things that I would study for. And I remember sitting in business school like, my soul had this little check and it just said no. And I remember believing fully that there is a different path, especially for women, because we all know there's that work-life balance. 4 kids, I want them to be healthy. We don't want to have fast food. So how am I going to be at a job and also cooking healthy, right? Managing all of the things. And to me, I looked around at the amazing and incredible female mentors I had in my life at that time. And essentially they were all burned out. They were waiting for retirement. Very few were making what I would consider like crazy choices to slow down. It was fast paced. It was rat race. And then, you look around at that and you say, okay, well, this is just how it is. This is normal. And what inadvertently was going on is that mindset kills prosperity, true prosperity. So when we step into radiant prosperity, it is actually activating the energy from within us that allows prosperity to flow our way like a magnet, right? And so that's what we want to create and cultivate. And one of the things that I have always believed, and especially when I created this business, I said to myself, and this is a statement I say to myself every single day, my business is a direct reflection of my energy field. Okay, and I'll say that again. My business is a direct reflection of my energy field. And guess what else is? My personal life is a direct reflection of my energy field. And if I want to be radiant and vibrant and thriving and have energy and to wake up every morning feeling ready to hit whatever is in front of me. And some days it's hanging out with kids and cooking food and serving clients and doing podcasts. But I wanted joy every single morning. And if I wanted that, I knew that my inner world, my inner landscape needed to be radiant, and I needed to be screaming energetically, I am open to prosperity. And this is where, we talk about affirmations, we talk about journaling, we talk about meditating, we talk about all those things. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. They don't do anything if our energy field does not match those things. And in the growth and transformation world, and where I kind of took a whole different angle and lens, and part of it was through my own journey of how am I going to do this entrepreneurship without the blood, sweat, and tears? I'm like, I need to cultivate prosperity inside of me first. Before I even see it showing up in the physical, I need to be energized. I need to be healthy. I need to be thriving. I need to eat good. I need to focus on me first so that I can step up as the biggest version of myself. So prosperity to me is a vibrancy and a state of being. And it resonates, the energy field of people who are prosperous, their energy fields are moving faster, okay? Which means it doesn't take as long to build a business. When I started out, I kind of had some, I hope this happens. I'm breadwinner. I hope. But, it didn't actually it was months and I hit 6 figures. And I only say that from the sense that wasn't my goal. And of course I had lots and lots of expenses in there. I showed up in the highest possible version of myself consistently. And I focused 100% on my energy, turning it into the energy field of prosperity, which coming out of the field of higher education, that wasn't a prosperity consciousness. Someone else tells you, here's your worth, here's what you get. We have budget cuts. It's a very scarcity mindset industry. And so I had to make a pretty big switch as I stepped into that entrepreneurial role.
Okay. Wow. I have about 10 questions out of all of this. So first, I want to just comment, love the inside out. I work with that, right? So I'm helping women show up online, on stage, and in the spotlight, but I help them shine and glow from the inside out. And that starts with the health and the mindset and all of that. And I want to stop at this point because when you were talking about, we grow as fast as our field allows us to, right? Or we show up with how we can't do a journal meditation in the morning and have that work if in our mind we're going, well, I'm just going through the motions, right? There has to be alignment. And so what I do in my work, and I want to see if this is because I'm hearing this for the first time from you, right? I want to know if this is what you're saying. One tip I give some of my people that are scared to death to go on camera, or they've been on camera, but they just feel like they're not delivering it at their best. I have them change their physical state. Because if we change our physical state a couple minutes before we show up on anything, like we see athletes jumping up and down, right, before they get into the game or before they run, or even speakers before they hit the stage, they're doing something in the physical. There's some connection, and there's science behind that. Is that part of what you're talking about when you're talking about your electromagnetic field? Because I'm not sure. So I know I call that changing your state. Yes. So just change your state, get out of this. But when you say electromagnetic field, I want to see how that connects to what you're saying. Yes. Because maybe define electromagnetic field and state and vibration and all of these words for people who might not be familiar.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. And you actually are leading into one of my little points I'll get to as well, which is awesome because ding, 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 right? So I want to explain really quickly the electromagnetic field. It is the energy field, which is outside of our physical body, and it emanates, different scientific sources say different feet, but I think in general, 6 to 12 feet is our electromagnetic field. So let me give you a classic example. We all have different levels of this. Entrepreneurs often have a very large electromagnetic field. However, it's often very suppressed because they're held back by their perceptions of themselves, their limitations, and that's why that movement is key. Like, how do we get things moving? So if you see a speaker on stage, if you've ever listened to a motivational speaker, or maybe you've been at an event and somebody vibrant walks in the room, right? They can take over the room. They can light up the room. That is their electromagnetic field. And it influences everything around them, okay? Including the levels of prosperity and what shows up on your doorstep. So the electromagnetic field, you'll hear it referred to perhaps as the aura. They've got a good vibe. That is the electromagnetic field, but it relates to our inner inside our physical body. It is dictated by this electromagnetic field. So when the electromagnetic field is out there and it's high vibing, and again, this isn't all roses. I am not saying that every day is on stage vibrant, but most of the days are, and we can handle the lower rut parts a lot easier with a higher electromagnetic field. I always say it's like we can run through the forest in the dark with a blindfold on and smack into every single tree and picker bush and come out bruised and battered. To me, that is life in a lower frequency. That is life in the blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm like, can we, as business owners, as people of high service, can we rise above all the trees, get on our little magic carpet square and avoid the bumps and the bruises? And when we are in a state of prosperity at a higher frequency, that's exactly what we're doing. So the mishaps of entrepreneurship and the mishaps and the struggles, that's how we elevate above that. So when we talk about going live on camera, stepping out into a new venture, putting ourselves out there on stage, whatever that stage may look like for us, when we push our comfort zones, because it ties in, prosperity ties in with our ability to be able to not just push our comfort zones. I'm going to just say it. We need to shatter our comfort zones, meaning we have to blow up the glass that we have limited perception of, right? And it's self-imposed. And so when we start shattering the comfort zone, that radiance that is from within, which is a driver of our prosperity, can actually go out there like a lighthouse, right? And people and things and abundance and health can find us, right? We're all sitting there with our lighthouses, but our light is put out. And so we feel heavy, we feel overwhelmed, we feel, we feel like we could eat better, sleep better, all those things. And all those things are dimming our beautiful lighthouses. And when we allow the radiance to move through us, it automatically creates this energy of prosperity. And that beacon of light all of a sudden shows up. It starts to bloom. And when that happens, we are then unstoppable. You know it by how you feel, you know it by the way you think, you know it by different decisions you make. And guess what happens? The right people float your way. Again, you're that prosperous magnet. So, if you're in business, any kind of business, new partnerships, new collaborations, new clients, whatever it is, highest income months and years without working as hard. Okay, we need to rewire our brain that the harder I work, the more I make. That is not true. And so we need to instead be prosperous and allow it to flow to us, because then what? We can be of higher service, we can give more. And quite frankly, we're going to live a whole lot longer on this planet.
Oh my gosh. And it's anti-hustle culture.
Totally.
Anti-hustle. There is a balance with the work, and I'm going to call it woo for people that don't like it. So you have to balance work and the woo, right? You have to, I don't hear you saying that just because we take care of the inside, we don't have to do anything. I think what I'm hearing you say is we feel so dang good when we're in the zone, or we're in that, what would you call it? That place of prosperity, that we actually put ourselves in positions to meet people. Is there a or someone that'll say you need to meet her? Right?
Yes.
It's because of that electromagnetic field, the vibe, the energy that we're putting out. Am I understanding that right?
Yes. And, I always like to use the term because I can hustle with the best. and, hustle does lead to burnout, right? I call it aligned hustle. There is a time and a place for rest. There's the time and the place. I teach the power of the pause, and we need to be doing it every single day. And there is a time and a place for hustling, but it needs to be aligned. It needs to be aligned with our core essence. So you had mentioned movement, and I do want to talk about that. I'm going to get to that as one of the tips and why it works. But yes, the aligned hustle, we have to be consistent. We have to show up, and we have to show up in best and brightest version of ourselves. But when we feel prosperous, and just asking your listeners right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, whatever prosperity means to you, the energy of prosperity, what does that mean to you? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I'm there, 10 out of 10, prosperity, consciousness, I'm in the zone. Where do you lie? Right. And I think that's where we always need to start. Where are we at? And we need to not feel guilty for where we're at. Some days are low, some days might be higher. The goal is consistency. The goal is moving that needle. So on a consistent basis, you are feeling prosperous almost every single day. And on the days you aren't feeling prosperous, you have tools and you can shift it that day. We don't need to wait for the breakthrough 3 weeks later. We need to be creating these daily breakthroughs so we can continue to keep the foot on the gas without the burnout.
Love this. I love this. And I'm sure that we get in our own way to do this. And you're going to probably tell us how not to do that. And there might be somebody listening right now that's going, I've never felt this. And I always try to have people tap into a time when they felt like they were in the zone. That's what I call it.
Yes.
But a lot of times they have to go back to childhood even. Like they have, life is just, does everyone have a point in their life up until today where they've been at this point, they just didn't know it? Or some people are going to cultivate this for the very first time?
Yes. Well, and I think it depends on our life experience, but oftentimes in childhood, but some people had, childhoods that weren't all love and joy and happy, right? But I think the best way, when I ask this question, when I talk to larger groups, a lot of times people that don't know anything about this, where I'll hear them say it is when I get on that treadmill or when I go for that run and I hit that runner's high, and I'm not a runner, I'm a movement queen, but running is not my thing. So, but that runner's high, or when I'm in the zone, or it could be creativity, or they play a musical instrument, or they sing, or they dance, and they probably don't do it often enough. Right. So I think there's a resonance. We can come close. When was the one time in your life that you were the happiest, most peaceful, right? If you can find one of those things in your past, that is tapping nearly into that prosperity consciousness. But the key is understanding that we need to be there and feel that more often. And then there are tools to get there. That's the key. We can talk about prosperity and raising your vibration and all of those things till we're blue in the face. Nothing happens unless we put it in action. Like that, I'm all about, we don't just talk about it. Let's go do it. Let's go do it right now. Right. And that's the work that I do, because I'm like, the growth and transformation industry is amazing, right? It is amazing. There's so much out there. And then what happens? We get overwhelmed. We're like, oh, I should do this. I should do that. I should journal. I should meditate. I should pray. I should drink water. I should eat healthier, right? And all of a sudden we have 100 to-dos to just win our dang mornings. And then we're overwhelmed and we don't do any of it. And that just halts our progress. So I try to be very laser clear that we don't have to do all the things. And in fact, in the work that I like to share, I find I do hardly anything of what I did 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. But I am very consistent every single day with what I do. And it has been a game changer. I always say that my business plan is exclusively my energy field. And my business plan, and try telling this to your CPA, they don't get it, right? They don't get it. Well, maybe a couple of them out there do. But when I say it, because I know I can get away with it at this point, because my business numbers, they just have to roll with it. But personally, my business plan is my energy field. And so understanding that the best work I can do for our prosperity, not just in business, because everything we do in this realm is going to impact our personal life, our health, our longevity, how we feel, relationships, bank accounts. We need to recognize that the more gas we can put into our tank, and there's very specific ways of doing that and doing it quickly and streamlined. I don't think we should be spending 2 hours meditating. How many people actually have time for that? Now, if you do, kudos, that's great. I do once in a while, but most days I do not. So what are those cutting edge quantum tools, streamlined ways of getting ourselves into that prosperity frequency?
Oh my gosh. And this is the core of your work. The core of your work.
Yes.
This is what you do. You help. Do you work with men too, or just women?
I don't. I have in the past, but in this work, it is exclusively women that really want to grow at an accelerated rate. Yes.
Awesome. Because we have unique things, right? Especially if we're moms
Right.
and we're business owners. So what are some ways we can start doing this? Give me all the goods. What are the deeds?
Yes. So I have 3 quick steps, and they're not necessarily. The first one is simply identifying what are prosperity killers. So what kills your prosperity imprint in the moment? And I just want to list a couple of things because I think we can all relate to this. And while they are common, very common traits of the human existence, I do want to challenge that we don't have to continue to live with all of these traits I'm going to list. So the first one, and again, working with female entrepreneurs, those in leadership and business, these are the ones that I hear. These were the things that were killers in my journey of prosperity. Okay. So overwhelm. Now just think about that. When was the last time you were overwhelmed? Many of you may say this morning or yesterday. So overwhelm is an energetic frequency that kills the prosperity frequency. Okay. It usually means we're doing too much, or we haven't done enough, or we have too much pent up energy inside of us that needs to be released. Constriction. Now I want to talk about constriction in our life decisions. So this is where we tend to not make decisions. We tend to think about things too long. We tend to overanalyze, the analysis paralysis, and we can't jump off those little cliffs, and we definitely can't jump off big cliffs. Constriction shows up in the physical body, though, in our breathing. So all of you just listening today, just notice your breath. You're probably breathing up high in the chest. I did a lot of work with trained in breath work and used to lead breath work sessions. But now I realized even that I'm like, we can do this a whole lot faster, right? We can still use breath work, but we don't need an hour session twice a week to maintain our sanity, right? So we'll talk more about that. But when we are constricted in our breath, our body feels tight. It is a prosperity killer. When we are stiff, when we have body parts that, we may blame age or we'll blame an injury, and that may be a part of it, but that is also just showing that you have stagnant old energy in your body that is begging to be moved. And when you move it, you elevate your prosperity. Okay. So lacking energy. So low energy is a prosperity killer. Okay. Procrastination. Putting off tasks, letting those things, because indecision, right? So procrastination, indecision, these are all prosperity killers. People who say, oh, I know I need to win my morning. I know I should get back in the exercise. I know I should go to that yoga class, but I just don't have the time. All of those things are prosperity killers. You're shooting yourself right in the foot and you're going nowhere. We have to have that self-care every single day. Poor diet is an absolute prosperity killer because the foods that we eat carry a frequency. Nutritious foods, live, whole, living foods carry a much higher frequency. Okay. What that means is our body can take it and it turns into better energy. If we have the cinnamon rolls with the coffee, which is probably artificial coffee, with artificial sweeteners, and then the sugar, it depletes our energy field and we sink and it kills our prosperity. Okay. People who are vibing high and in the zone are typically going to be health conscious. Okay. And there's lots of different ways we can tune into that. But I'm very, very passionate about that on my journey. I have been able to times 10 my energy just through my diet alone. Okay. So frustration, anger, resentment, all those things are prosperity killers. So that's step one, is recognizing, well, like you said, we get in our own way and we get in our own way by those states of being. Okay. First step is recognizing, hey, these things do happen in my life. Look at your last couple of days. How often did any of those traits maybe show up in your life? And just be honest, like it's okay. It happens to all of us. But if we don't recognize that we're standing in our own way of prosperity, we can't then use the tools to modify that. Okay. So what I want to talk about next, and this is key. And then we're going to get right into movement. We have to learn to apply and use energetic tools. And by energetic tools, let me just define that. There are many, but movement is going to be the primary driver. Okay. So if somebody came up to me, and people do all the time, they call me maybe the movement queen or whatever. I mean, people call me lots of things. It started because this was stuff that I always did, and I have honed it and tweaked it since I would say, in high school. So my experience with movement started way back, and I remember I had a yoga book and a Pilates book, and I would like flip the page, read it, do the movement, right? I would sit in my bedroom, and it felt amazing. And then in college, I took at the local YMCA, I just took a yoga class. It was a 6-week class. And I remember coming out of that feeling in the zone. And going home that night, I had to study for an accounting exam. I got like a 99% on that exam. I was in the zone because my energy had shifted. Since that day, I have always been into all sorts of exercise and movement. However, I realized we can get even more specific and focused than that. So, asking yourself, a lot of my clients too, like they exercise, they go to the gym, they lift weights, all good things, and they do yoga, and they do, they dabble with a lot. Some have fallen away from that because they're too busy, and so I would encourage anybody who's in that category to get back at it, get back at something. Start with what you know and what you enjoy to do. But if someone came up to me on the street and said, Natalie, I feel stuck in my life, or I don't feel abundant, or, how do I get to a higher level of prosperity? And if I had 30 seconds, I would say, move your body every single day. And they'll say, well, how do I move my body? I don't care how you move your body, just move your body every single day. The other thing that we have to do is we have to disrupt the pattern. So our frequency, we are so programmed, right? The human brain, and doing the same kind of exercise every day is also not overly productive, right? So mixing things up. So my morning routine, I may have a staple that I'm going through every single day, but every day I ask myself, what energy do I need to be today? So on a day when I'm on a podcast, is a different energy than on a day where I am maybe coaching clients. Okay. There's different energies. So I tweak my morning practice based on that. And so, some may call it like somatic movement. What does that mean? Our blocks to prosperity and our blocks to everything in life, but for purposes of this, our prosperity blocks are physically stored in our body, in different body parts, in different body organs. And oftentimes it can be where we've had injury or a surgery, or we feel we lack flexibility. And so what I work with the energy that is already within us. That prosperity energy is already in us. It's a state of being, like that lighthouse. It's like a light switch. Is it on or is it off? Are you plugged into the high frequency current that will illuminate your path towards radiant prosperity, or is the switch off? And what I have found in most, not all, most female entrepreneurs, those in leadership and business, whatever it is, the switch is off. It's off because they have bought into the blood, sweat, and tears. They bought into the overwhelm, and they don't know what to do about it, right? And so they know there's a different path, but they don't know how to get there. And it's as simple as opening up that energy, flipping the switch inside of them. But we do that through movement. And sometimes it's only 10 minutes a day. Sometimes it's 20. Sometimes we have an hour. And boy, oh boy, do we feel amazing. But we are working with the breath. We're working with certain body parts. So when I talk to people and they're like, here's where I'm stuck. And you can tell in their words, you can tell in their countenance, you can tell in their demeanor where those blocks are. And then when you give them the tools to move their body and have that experience, it shifts it. And in some cases, Christine, and this is what is so incredible, I have seen the energy field shift in 3 minutes. A lot of the power tools that I have are 3 minutes to 11 minutes. And I have women that do this at work. They do it in the bathroom stall, right? It's not hard stuff. It's combination, movement, breath, and moving certain, muscle groups in a certain way. And it opens up, it turns the switch on, and it clears the blocks. And I wish, and I should be writing a book on this, the most amazing things have happened as it relates to prosperity when I am on my yoga mat doing my thing. And I come off the yoga mat and this email came in and that email came in, or better yet, this new idea came in, this new program came in. Teach your clients this. When we raise our energy field, that is where the brilliant ideas of the easier path can drop into existence. And I tell people, be ready, because when you start moving your body, when you start doing this work, those brilliant ideas are going to come forth. Write them down, because they're coming forward, because it's saying there's an easier path to prosperity. There's an easier path in your day-to-day life. We can expand time. The more time I put into my personal physical practice, the more I get done in a day, right? It is counterintuitive, but the more I do here, the more I feel like my energy field opens up and it goes in front of me. And I use the analogy of a snowplow because it's like my energy field goes in front of me like a snowplow and it clears the path instead of trudging through the snow and, huffing and puffing and stopping and halting, and the snowplow plows my path. And then I can just walk the path. Life is in flow. That is radiant prosperity. And movement is the key driver.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Pause. So much of what we do is an alignment. It's blowing my mind right now. Just sitting here listening, going, we teach very similar things. I just have different words to it, which is cool, right? Because it reaches people differently. But I caught something you said, and I'm wondering if this is correct. When I work with my clients in their health, because we work on health in my program as well, and they say they walk, for example, they're not walking. When I was in private practice, I used to schedule appointments to take them for a walk. Let's say they wanted to do it for weight loss. They weren't walking for weight loss. They were like just out enjoying nature. It wasn't intentional movement. And I think I'm hearing you say, don't movement for the activities of daily living. That's not the movement you're talking about. You're talking about specific intentional movement. Am I correct? Yes. We're not talking about parking further from the door at the grocery store. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking, am I correct? Because it was the same, that's what I found with my clients as well, is that they weren't grasping what I meant about movement until I actually demonstrated, this is what I mean. Is there similarity there to what you're saying?
Yes. And it's so funny. I love to walk, and kudos to anyone who can actually keep up with me. I am a power walker, but most of it, and I'm out there in nature, but I'm doing it pretty quickly. And there is a time and a place for a stroll. But what I have found is strolls do not move the energy that needs to move through us. So if you think of our whole energy system and physical body, we have different blocks that get stuck, right? And long term, this becomes our physical disease and illness. And so when we have an open flowing energy field and we feel amazing, guess what? We're not going to get chronically ill and sick, because it's not possible. Disease and illness can't live in a body that is moving. I always use the analogy of take a bowl of water, put it out in the hot sun, and just let it sit, whether it's dog water or whatever. Over time, it's going to get stuff growing, bacteria, fungus, parasites, it turns green. Our bodies are what percent water, right? We are a high percentage of water. And that water, that crystalline substance in our body, if we are not moving, we turn into that dog water out in the sun. It actually allows parasites, fungus, and bacteria to overtake our physical health. And then we wonder why we're sick and why we have, why do I get the cold? Right? So from an energetic standpoint, energy, water is a conductor of energy. And so if our bodies are not moving, we represent that stuck, stagnant energy. And guess what? Our inner world, right, is going to the outer world is going to be like, okay, you're stuck and stagnant. If you feel stuck and stagnant in your life, your energy inside of you is stuck and stagnant, right? So moving. I mean, I always say, if you don't walk at all, walking is better than not walking, So obviously I take into consideration where somebody is at. I had a lady who owned a restaurant, and she was getting up very, very early, and she was also doing, all the cooking. And so she struggled with winning her mornings because she's like, I already have to get up, in the middle of the night to get there. I said, start with 3 or 5 minutes, but then maybe you're going to win your afternoon when you come home, right? Like we have to adjust that. Well, she since realized she didn't want the restaurant. She sold a restaurant. Well, now she's winning her entire day because she is stepping into more freedom. So we have to start with the logistics of where we're at. But yes, I am talking about working with actually our energy force within us. It's actually located near at the base of our spine. And think about it. What do? We sit in preschool through 12th grade. We sit, right? We are sitting on the most powerful force in the universe that is inside of us, but it's dormant. Okay. And so we sit at office jobs. We sit on the couch. We sit. And so by and large in our population, hardly anybody has this life force energy moving through them because we're doing too much sitting. We're doing too much non-movement. And so when you start to recognize this, you will know by how you feel. I always say, give me 20 minutes of your time. I will make you feel so freaking amazing in 20 minutes. But it's not me doing it. It is you working with the technology of your own body. So it's a really powerful and beautiful thing.
I love that. My movement is dance. I've been a competitive figure skater as a child, and I had a dance background to support that. And now I teach fitness classes now still as a hobby because I love it. You do get addicted to being in that movement zone. Yes. And there's a quote around this, and it would work. It's for dancers, but I think it would work for yoga. I think it would work for walkers. I think it would work for what you're saying is, and it might help with maybe what you're going to say next. I'm not sure because I have no idea where you're going with this, but it is that we find ourselves when we lose ourselves. Mm-hmm. And there's this poster of this woman in a back bend and she's got her leg up, she's like leg to the ceiling, her back is arched and she's a dancer. And it is so true because I lose myself in the choreography, in the movement, but that's when I'm connected to myself. It is the coolest experience. And I have a feeling that relates a lot to what you're saying.
It does. And actually, I have a background in dance and figure skating. So I'm not surprised that we have that connection. I have always loved that feeling of, I think freedom. Freedom is the best way to describe it when you are out there doing your thing. Dancers, and especially figure skaters, they work with the different left brain, right brain. So the movement of dance, because you're crossing that central meridian of the body, you are actually activating both left brain and right brain. We live in a very left brain dominant society because that right brain is not cultivated. It's not how it's not how anything is set up. But when we get into dance, when we get into, skating and some of those types of movements, we have to have strength. We have to have flexibility. We have to have longer lengthening muscles. And that movement definitely puts you into that space. I know some of the clients I've had, they're heavy weightlifters, right? But they try to do the work that I teach. So like, why is it so hard? I'm like, well, it's not that hard, but it's because those muscles are so tight and constricted that life force energy is coming in like dynamite saying, let me through that bicep, right? I can't get through it. And that energy current is what needs to get, through it. That's why stretching and lengthening the muscles, if they are going to, power lift or do whatever they need to do, is so important because we can be totally fit and ripped and still energetically blocked. It all depends on what's going on with our energy, the way energy moves through our body and through our circuits. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh. Now, do you have a personal story of how you even started with this? Did you recognize in your own life that you were blocked and you found a way to discover how this helped you?
Yes.
Share that story.
When I've always been into movement, always. It's been a key pillar. And there's definitely been times in my life where I haven't moved as much just due to life and career and kids and pregnant and nursing and all the things that we all face. But what I will say is when I jumped into entrepreneurship and the amount of, the fears and the doubts, because when you do that when you're 40, it's like, there's a lot on the line. Like the house is on the line, the kids existing and surviving is on the line. There's no college funds, like all those things. And all those things wake you up in the middle of the night. Like, what am I doing? I have to be successful. So what I was recognizing is I turned to movement as a key driver in my business. Okay. And when I was starting out, and I have mentors and I invest very heavily in my own growth and transformation. And all of a sudden I started realizing that all of these people who've been in maybe the coaching industry or all of my colleagues, and they would look at me and say, how are you doing what you're doing? Because you're like going so fast and you're like in the zone. What are you doing that we're not? And I was like, well, I don't know. I didn't really give it much thought because, our brilliance, I think often we don't even see it. We don't even see the things. But when I started reflecting, I was like, oh, I am doing things differently. I am doing things a lot differently. My energy blueprint is my business plan. And I work on it every single day. And I don't stop working on it until I'm no longer blocked. I don't make any business decision. I don't show up for any coaching call until my energy is where it needs to be. So I started sharing just a little, and then my colleagues were like, tell us more, tell us more. And, I resisted teaching it. So my coaching program, which is just turned into this lengthy universal laws, quantum advancement, like jumping off the cliff, shattering the comfort zone, all the things, vibrant, healthy life, integrated wellness. What I started realizing is the women that I could convince to move, they got results a lot faster, right? And when I went to South Africa in 2022, and I led a conscious leadership retreat, and I knew I had to go. There was just like, you have to go. I didn't know how I was going to go. I had to leave the kids. It was terrifying. It was scary. It was all those things. But in my heart, I was like, I'm going. And when I was there, it was almost like this transmission of, you need to go back to the United States. Because I shared there some of my personal things that I did. And I saw transformation, like miracles in front of my eyes. And it was like the sign I needed. It was like, I think the universe is like, do I have to make it any more clear? I had to bring you all the way to South Africa for you to get the message that you didn't get in the States. You need to go teach this. You need to share this with the world because this is a global movement. And literally, I always say, join the global movement, but the pun is intended. Like global movement, we have to move to change. And I'm always about, let's not talk about being stuck. Let's shift it. Let's take action. Let's take that aligned action. So in South Africa, after I returned home, I made the decision, bring it all into the coaching experience, bring it in and teach people, incorporate it into your master classes. There's not a single coaching call that I don't open with movement. Everything we begin with movement, because you know what? If we move our bodies, no one has any problems. All we do is celebrate success.
So good. Okay. So you teach this, you have clients, you have a program, and you help, when I'm assuming clients come to you, you help them find their blocks and clear their blocks so they can radiate their prosperity.
Correct.
If someone wants to work with you, I think you have something coming up very soon where they can actually work with you for free. Is that right?
Yes. I have a free masterclass on March 7th. And if you're catching this podcast after March 7th, just feel free to reach out to me because I have many, many, many free resources. I'm all about sharing all the goods. Obviously, inside my program is where it's a longer embodiment experience to learn where are all the blocks? How do they show up? But on March 7th, I will be teaching. It's going to be around radiating your brilliance, that inner spark within. I'm going to talk about how to ignite it, how to allow it to come forward. Most women don't realize it's already inside of them. It's just dormant, hanging out in the back closet. We're going to shake the dust off. We are going to move in very simple ways. I always say, if my mother, who's 78, can do most of the work I teach, anybody can do this work, right? It is designed for all fitness levels. And definitely there's beginner, intermediate, and advanced, but we can have powerful breakthroughs with a 3-minute practice. It's happened in my life. I see it happening in my clients' lives. It changes lives. And I always say it's going to become your new favorite addiction. And it's going to be the best addiction you've ever had, because if you don't do it, you feel it, and then you need to go back to it. And so that's the work that I'm here to teach, obviously grounded in universal principles, quantum techniques and tools. We have a whole bunch that we can throw into this, but come to the masterclass. It is free. It's via Zoom. I would love to share some of the magic with anyone for whom this resonates.
I love that. And where can they find you online? What is your handle and all of that? And I'm going to put all of this in the show notes, by the way, the link to your masterclass, your website. What is it called when they go to look for you online?
Okay. So I have, where I store a lot of my free resources is in my private Facebook group. And that's Transforming Mindsets with Natalie Clark. And that's something you can just request to join that group. And I'm happy to share from my library. I have hundreds of trainings. We don't need hundreds of trainings. We just need one or two to light that fire. And there's always more when it's needed. So my website definitely has insights. And then the current masterclass is at mindfreecoaching.com. It'll take you right to the sign up, and you'll get a workbook, and it is going to be 90 minutes. And we will be moving our bodies for an experience.
I love it. Oh my gosh. This has been amazing. I would love to have you back. I think it would be so fun to come back in a few months and talk about the next level of something else. Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. This is such a near and dear subject. So yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. And for you listening, go to the show notes to grab the registration form for the masterclass on March 7th. And if you're catching this after March 7th, 2024, you'll be able to find all of her free resources in the show notes. Just click the link. Thanks a lot for being here today, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this whole episode. I hope you loved it as much as I did. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now so that you get notified the next time a new episode is released. And until then, have a fierce, fit, feminine, and fabulous day.